What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I'm going to talk about Nvidia and Tesla in particular, break down why there's a lot of opportunity in these stocks for the next couple of trading days / weeks, what you should be watching for moving forward. Before I break things down about all this information, though, I have to mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to Nvidia, this thing is a very, very interesting stock, seeing how this thing can move in a very, very short period of time. Now, looking at how much money just flows in and out of Nvidia, it's very interesting and very fun to watch and also play. But what's very interesting about it is some very, very massive orders came out on Friday, which I want to talk about. Now, I can't really show you the orders directly here, but I can talk about them. Basically, what happened was when the video was selling off, especially during the middle of the day, we saw some individuals, institutions, or whoever they were buying a large amount of puts for the 450 strike, and they bought this expiring next week. We had lots and lots of premiums being bought, and Nvidia ended up going all the way down to this 450 area. So if they end up closing that position, if they were to hypothetically do that, this could lead to upside in Nvidia because the act of closing puts or etc. could once again lead to upside, seeing the hedging that ends up happening because shares end up being bought for the long term. But it wasn't just that was being bought, okay? I just wanted to let you know that we saw a lot of 450 calls, 470 calls, and 500 calls for the month of August for Nvidia by the expiration on, I believe, the 18th of August. And also some for the week before, like the 11th of August, even the 4th of August. But we saw a lot of those 500 strikes being bought for mid August. A bunch of them, millions and millions of premiums, right? This is worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. A lot of money is being bet on Nvidia, making some massive, massive moves to the upside. And it seems, I don't know if it's a coincidence or if they know something. In my opinion, zooming out of this chart, it has earnings on, according to the Nasdaq, I think August 22nd. And you also have to consider the shorting that has been going on for it. I mean, we saw a slight increase compared to before. It was very high. There's a very high amount of shorting that happened like right before its earnings before. This happened like during this period right here, and Nvidia ended up squeezing. Right now, it's only at about like 11 million, which is half as much shorting as what we saw back then. Now, it could go back up again as we approach its earnings, but I just want to call out the opportunity in Nvidia stock. I think it wants to go for 500, and I think there's a good chance it's going to get 500 over the next couple of weeks at the latest. Now, approaching earnings, there's a good chance it's going to happen by mid August. So that's like within the next month or so, it's going to probably reach that level. Could it sell off more first? That is another possibility. They could try to drag it down a little lower just to like get cheaper options on it. But if anything, premiums tend to be expensive on this thing, and it has lots of potential to move. Part of why premiums are expensive has to do with the Vega and also the volatility of Nvidia. It's very volatile, and that's why we see it move this way. But I just want to call out the potential opportunity in this. Now, a strategy could be buying calls and just like dollar cost averaging down the more it drops, and then eventually buying back in, or selling them as it like pumps a lot more. And there's just a lot of opportunity in this. Now, I think that this is going to be very big for the next couple of weeks, and I do believe it's going to hit the 500s. I think there's a good chance it's going for it. This thing is a monster. It is not slowing down, and the overall trend on the 4-hour or even the daily chart, it's still looking strong. I mean, there's nothing super bearish about this trend. It's still continuing to uptrend. Still looks very strong in my opinion. Now, could it cool off a little bit more in a very healthy pullback style? Yes, it can. It can cool off all the way down to this like gap area around like the 439 area, maybe even as low as 425. I mean, that's kind of a stretch, but it's a possibility. But even if that happens, that's a super good call buying opportunity. Now, I highly doubt it's going to drop that hard unless we get a very bad piece of news. But like I said before, wherever it ends up dropping, wherever this thing falls to, it's going to be a good buying opportunity. This thing has a lot of potential to hit these very, very high levels. It wants 500. You could see it, and we know a lot of big orders were made already for 500, so it may not even drop that much more. Maybe it drops a couple more dollars before it tries to bounce. That's another possibility. It depends on if 450 holds us. But many people are betting it's going to go to 500 plus, and these premiums are not cheap. They're very expensive. So maybe they know something, maybe they don't. Who knows? Now, another opportunity for the more short term is going to be Tesla. I was mentioning this earlier on Friday. I'm calling this out again because you have to consider what Tesla is capable of doing. Now, on the daily, you will notice that volume on Tesla has started to go up a bit. We saw the volume in the 120 plus millions again. It used to fall all the way down to like the 90 million mark just a couple of days ago. So we're seeing a big increase in Tesla's volume. And to add on to this, I just want to mention that Tesla managed to break the high it made right here. Right, it had this previous high, started to retrace a bit, but it managed to break that high again on Friday, and that's despite the fact that SPY pumped and sold off a bit. Right, SPY closed kind of red at like 449.28. Apple was just barely green, very flat. The QQQ was red, just barely red, basically. Nasdaq closed. Let's just check the Nasdaq. It ended up closing a little bit in the red, just a tiny bit. SPX was a tiny bit red too, but Tesla closed up 1.25%. It held up quite nicely. So what generally happens is we see lots of FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, and lots of buyers stepping in right before earnings. And Tesla has earnings on the 19th of July. It's one of the first tech stocks to give us earnings during this season. There's a good chance that Tesla's going to retest this high at 285 and try to push up even higher. We could see this thing go all the way up to 300 if we break above the 290 zone. If it gets to the 290s, there's a good chance it's going to make its way up to like 300. And we tend to see a lot of surges in volatility as soon as Monday. Now, it's already starting to show signs of strength over the last 2 days, pumping quite a bit. There's a good chance it's going to continue, and there's going to be a lot of hype associated with this earnings. Why is there hype? Well, you have to remember that Tesla had a record deliveries during their latest report. We also have an expectation set by Wall Street analysts that they're expecting Tesla to beat EPS by 6%. Now, even if that's the case and all this data is like so awesome, I have a warning about Tesla though, and that is earnings don't guarantee upside afterwards. I'm simply talking about a pump approaching earnings. But after earnings, who knows what's going to happen? It could depend heavily on their margins. Now, the Wall Street analysts are also saying that they're not very optimistic about Tesla's margins because of all the price cuts. They expect, not the best margins, which could lead to decline afterwards. But just to be safe, always be open-minded for anything and always be prepared. My plan is this. I'm going to reveal what my plan is, even though I'm not giving financial advice, by the way. I have Tesla calls. I sold a lot of them, basically secured profits on this pump up to like 285 as I knew this thing would, drop down. But I'm willing to just scalp more calls all the way up wherever Tesla goes, even if it goes up to like 300, which I think is very possible, approaching earnings. Then I'm going to secure profits on the calls, make a pretty nice gain. And then in doing so, I will wait and see what happens after earnings. I may hold an option or two just through earnings just for fun. But honestly, guys, it's very risky. And especially with this earnings, you don't know what's going to happen. Tesla's a stock that could surprise everyone and start pumping very hard. It's very likely they may do well with EPS and revenue. But those margins are still a big concern for Wall Street and many investors, and also the things that Elon Musk says. If Musk talks about the recession and things like that, we could get a sell off on Tesla because of expectations not being the strongest. And Musk has said this previously. He said for the next 12 months, things may slow down a bit for Tesla. So it's always important to be open minded and to be well aware of what could play out. From a technical standpoint, okay, there is a possibility Tesla could pump more. Tesla broke its high, so it's forming, once again, an uptrend. The trend is still bullish for Tesla. However, looking at our MACD, this thing is showing signs of declining strength on the RSI and also on the MACD, forming a negative divergence. We're in the process of forming one. So what could happen is we pump to about like 300 or so approaching earnings, and then earnings caused a decline for Tesla. That's one possibility. Am I promising it? No, I'm not promising anything. I don't know what's going to happen after earnings, but it is a possibility, and that's what technicals are suggesting is very possible. But it's not a guarantee because Tesla is once again a stock that could surprise us and still break up to like 320 plus after earnings too. All right, so that's what I'm seeing for Tesla. It's more secure to play based off what you know. When I say that, we could play the upside approaching earnings, but then we don't know what's going to happen after earnings. We don't know what's going to happen after the market closes on Wednesday. So there's no point in trying to assume you know exactly what's going to happen because we don't truly know. The best thing to do, however, is prepare for contingencies, prepare for the possibility of both downside and upside, and be well aware of what the risks are basically. And in doing so, you're able to enter your trade and then manage risks in the process by not risking too much money, or by hedging accordingly based off what you think could happen. That's what I like to do during earnings dates like this. I just want to warn you all that there is a risk of Tesla selling off after earnings because of their margins. There is a bearish divergence that is technically developing. uh, it's developing, which means that Tesla could pump more and then it ends up dropping. There's no sign of it being done developing yet, though. It's just in the process of forming. All right. Nothing's guaranteed for Tesla. These divergences don't promise anything, but it is one thing worth noting. So I just want everyone to be very careful, remain calm, cool, and collected, and just look at this as an opportunity. We could play the upside approaching earnings, but then after earnings, who knows what's going to happen? We will see. And because nobody truly knows, or at least most of us don't really know what's going to happen after earnings, it's best to manage risks and be well aware of it and do what you have to do. All right, so that's the opportunity I have for this week. I think Tesla's going to pump very nicely approaching earnings, though. We could see $300 again. As crazy as that sounds, it's a possibility. And I still think Tesla has potential to pump a lot more approaching its earnings, and then after we'll see what happens. All right. So Tesla and Nvidia are two good plays. Tesla's going to be like more short term for earnings. I'm just not as sure about earnings though. But Nvidia has potential for, as we approach mid August, to push up to at least 500 plus. There's a real possibility on that. Lots of big institutions, big money is betting Nvidia is going to go up as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I'm also going to be watching the short interest on Nvidia because this tends to go up as we approach earnings, just like these moments right here. If it goes up like crazy and a lot of people are shorting Nvidia, there is a chance this thing could squeeze just like it did last time. It's a possibility, and there are going to be a lot of eyes on it after what just happened a couple of months ago. Okay? So thank you for listening. Do what you have to do. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I hope this was helpful in some way. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla and Nvidia in the market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.